If you look at I felt when we stared down, I felt his right hand was twitching a little bit, but it was a subtle tell for me. He is ready to unload that right hand, but I feel that could be a downfall for him if he lets that right hand go. I will not be there.
KO out on a stretcher. This match
No, he's getting taken out on a stretcher.
Oh, I said I'm going to take him out on a stretcher.
What's good with y'all? Welcome back to the channel. So what happened to Conor McGregor? Well, looking back at Conor McGregor's run in the UFC through 2013 to 2016, he completely changed the sport of MMA. I mean, it was him and Ronda Rousey. You know, Ronda Rousey definitely played a part, but Conor McGregor just completely brought a whole new fan base to the UFC and really helped make it even more mainstream than Brock Lesnar made it. This lasted up until UFC 205, where, in my opinion, I believe we saw the best version of Conor McGregor, and that's really where Conor McGregor's career kind of peaked off. It's clear to see that Conor McGregor past 2016 isn't the same fighter that he once was during the peak years of his career. We can see these changes in, the shift in his style of fighting, the way he used to fight, on a loose karate stance, using creative kicking techniques to set up his strikes and perfect distance management. Notice how Conor McGregor earlier in his UFC career, his hands used to be lower, but now, he's really flat-footed, he fights really on the traditional boxing stance, and he doesn't check leg kicks. There's so many things that McGregor, has abandoned and, that made him so dangerous in the first place, that if he would just bring that back, he would be, as good as he was back then when he was winning a bunch of fights. And even the way Conor has presented himself in the last few years has been completely different. It seems like all of the success outside of the UFC has gone to his head. Gone with the creative trash talk that had perfect comedic timing and playing mind games, but still making it clear to everyone that, it's all just for entertainment and mental warfare. Of course, there's an entertainment aspect, but there's lines you can't cross. And calling Dustin Poirier's wife a hoe, he paid for it. He got knocked the fuck out. And then the second fight, he went home on a stretcher. He left the arena on a stretcher. Mystic Mac, he used to go on to predict how he would beat his opponents. Now he's predicting how he's losing. He said Poirier's gonna leave on a stretcher. He left on a stretcher, So it's just not the same, he's just not the same dude. I don't think that Conor lost the motivation, as he is in the best shape of his life. I mean, if you look at his Instagram and his Twitter, he's showing you that he's putting in the work. He's trying to get, in the best physical shape that he can get possible. And he still expresses that he wants to show people that he can still compete amongst the best fighters in the world, targeting a return for a title shot after 2 brutal straight losses to Dustin Poirier, which tells me that he still feels that he can get back to being vintage Conor. I believe that there's a couple of factors that led to Conor McGregor's decline in his career. The biggest factor is his success outside of the UFC. I believe that once Conor reached a point where he didn't have to fight for money and he accomplished everything he set out to do when he arrived at the UFC, he no longer had that same hunger that a fighter has when they are trying to reach the top. Since Conor McGregor is already at the top, from the outside looking in, it seems that he has no real motivation, no real reason to keep still competing at the highest level. But for me, I believe that Conor McGregor, he doesn't care about the money, he doesn't care about all the other stuff. He's fighting for legacy at this point. And I believe that if he would have been Khabib, he probably would have retired after that fight. But because Khabib dominated him, mauled him, and really punished him for the things Conor said, he felt like he had still a lot of work to do to really repair his image and, still be regarded as one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. So my only hope is that Conor McGregor comes back and can return to the Conor we saw against Jose Aldo, Eddie Alvarez, or even Donald Cerrone. But only time will tell when Conor McGregor returns later this year what version we'll get of Conor McGregor. But Conor McGregor needs to pick up a win in the next fight, or it could be the end of his career in the UFC. But only time will tell what happens when Conor McGregor returns later this year. But my only hope is that Conor can return to being vintage Conor and put on another great performance and honestly leave the sport of MMA satisfied and with a solid legacy. You know, he might never be the greatest fighter of all time, but I think the best thing for Conor to do is he can either go for a title shot or that trilogy fight with Nate. You know, that first fight with Nate would be huge and just cap off his career on that. You know, it's not like Conor McGregor's washed or, you know, he's trash now. He's still a great fighter, but hopefully we can get the vintage Conor McGregor back. That's my only hope.
Pocket full of Benjamins, but they call me Bill. Slinging skill for the bill, kill for the bill. Had to sit for a little, they sent me out the hill. I'm roll running, trying to make it back to the crib. I got pieces, I got money in the stack.